Hey, what's going on, guys? I want to do a knife review for you today. This is a Brous Blades fixed blade. This is just called the Threat. A lot of people out there have seen Jason Brous's triple threat, which is really popular. Basically a very similar knife with three different grinds in the blade. Although I think that's really cool, I definitely gravitated towards this one even more so, just for the simplicity and the overall looks of it. The triple threat is actually, it's a really cool knife, but not one that I would probably use personally. So this one I would use personally and have used personally, and now it's time for a review. Overall, I really like this knife. It's really, really cool. I love just the look of it. Some knives catch my eye more than others. There's a very simple, clean look to this knife. I'm starting to gravitate a little bit more towards the slightly thicker fixed blades, but only when they have the thin handle scales. And that's what I like about this one particularly. The thickness on this is 0.19 inches, but we have thin G10 scales. Okay, these are CNC'd out. Let's talk about that a little bit. They offer lots of grip. It's kind of a maze pattern in here. Let me let this focus up real close. The positive to this is it kind of looks cool. It's definitely different. It does offer grip. The grip, if you were to close your eyes and not know that this is actually like maze cut out, whatever, it just feels like a textured G10. It does offer lots of grip, even when your hands are wet, which is really nice. But it doesn't feel like they're deep cuts, okay? And they're somewhat deeper cuts. And this is where the negative comes in. With scales like this, and actually carrying this knife, not just holding it and displaying it and showing your friends, when you really put this on your side and carry it around like I did, you'll find that these little grooves start filling up with all kinds of junk and gunk. Lint, just all kinds of crap. I mean, I cleaned it out, but you can see there's still little bits of stuff in there. So it's really the only downside I've seen thus far with this particular knife is that these grips, they're very cool and everything, but instead of being just a shallower texturing all across the G10, it definitely leans more towards being inconvenient as far as cleaning. So something to consider. These grooves will fill up with all kinds of crap when you start carrying the thing. But besides that, I've loved the knife. There's obviously a finger choil for your pointer finger, a choil for your pinky finger, and then the second one, or the middle one, is for your middle and ring. The problem I have with this one, not really a problem, because it is a comfortable fit, but when I grip down really, really hard, my middle finger and ring finger are kind of squeezed together a little bit. So this doesn't, fit my hand, precisely, I should say. It's going to be pretty versatile, though. A lot of people are going to be able to get a comfortable grip, and it's a wide enough curve here in the choil that it's not, when it pinches together, it's not severe. If you were to bring these points up a lot higher or have a more extreme curvature in there, it would be uncomfortable. I don't want to say it's uncomfortable because it's not. I can grip down pretty good and still have a comfortable grip, but I can feel that my fingers are being pinched together just a little bit. Of course, this is going to vary between, what kind of hand you have. Some people have bigger hands, some people have smaller hands. So when you do a design like this and you do more than one choil, you always run the risk of limiting, the comfort for certain people. So I want to say if you have a smaller hand, this would be extremely comfortable for you. If you have a very, very large hand, you may not like this particular handle style. All right, but for the average person, because I have average hands, they're a little bit bigger than normal, but they're not huge hands, trust me. I don't have big hands. So I wear like a large size glove. If you wear a medium or a small, this thing would fit you great. If you wear an extra large glove or something like that, or you just know you have huge hands, probably not for you as far as the comfort goes. Like I said, a little bit limiting when you go more than one choil. If you have a straight handle and one finger choil, then anyone can grab onto that. It doesn't matter how fat your pointer finger is. I mean, it's pretty versatile. With more finger choils, you do get more comfort if that hand happens to fit them properly. But anyway, for my hand, if it's comfortable, but definitely worth mentioning. There is jimping all across the entire spine. It's not functional for grip, and this gives me no grip at all, but I really like the way it feels. And it's kind of hard to explain unless you actually got it in your hand. They're very rounded. All right, there's no sharp corners anywhere, and it's finished very nicely too. So it's just comfortable for my thumb to land on here. And of course, again, depending on how you're gripping this, if you choke back on it a little bit, still use that finger choil up here. I mean, obviously anywhere your thumb is going to land, even if you choke up a little, you're going to be landing on that. And it's comfortable to me. Reminds me a little bit like a textured rounded spine, if that makes sense. When I have rounded spines on knives, I like the way that feels on my thumb. I don't like really abrupt, sharp corners. Some people prefer that, you know, for striking ferro rods and stuff. I don't think that's necessary whatsoever. And I'm going to talk about ferro rods in a whole separate video and stuff like that, because I have a lot of opinions on them. But as far as a knife, I want comfort. I'm not worried about striking my, you know, that's the least of my issues. I've said this before too, if you really want to, you know, a knife, or you're really concerned about that particular thing, you're into the survival stuff and you got your fire steels, you know, the choil down here, the blade choil is where you can always strike. And it's not going to compromise your edge whatsoever. But anyway, yeah, I really like that the way it feels, but it's not adding anything for grip. Speaking of the blade choil, I like when people do this. It's such a simple little detail, but I like when my entire edge is a usable edge. By putting in a little bit of a curve here, a little bit of a notch or blade choil, you're allowing your edge to be sharpened completely, razor sharp, all the way to the tip. Okay, this right here is just as sharp as this and this, all across the edge. So I like that. Also makes sharpening easier. Without this little notch, you get this progressive, okay, it's sharp, okay, now it's not sharp, now it's just steel, you know. It's just a nice little touch. So I like that. It's very professional, clean look as well. Hardware in this is very simple. We have Torx heads on here, and then the females are flats, which is really nice. I like this design, so if you want to take this apart, obviously you just put a flathead screwdriver, or you know, you can use a pry bar if it happens to fit in there, anything that's going to fit into that flat notch, all right, to hold that female part steady, and then of course the Torx in the front. Very simple. Sometimes you do double-sided Torx, and not a lot of people out there have two sets of Torx drivers, you know, to be able to take that apart. So it's a really simple design. I like that a lot. As far as like the specs, we have a D2 steel. Obviously, as you can see, it is full tang. One solid hunk of metal, extremely strong. 3.6 inches on the blade. The overall length is 8.19 inches. And the weight is 5.94 ounces. Does not feel heavy at all. I love the sheath system. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But carrying this exactly how I got it has been very, very comfortable. And I was, you know, I'm trying to get into carrying some smaller, medium-sized fixed blades for EDC purposes. I kind of carry over that concept that folders, although really strong, if you can carry one, a fixed blade is better. A nice, strong, good quality, full tang fixed blade is a better option than a folder for no matter what you're cutting, really. Just depends on the size of your blade, you know, for the task. But I just always veered away from fixed blades because I didn't know how to carry them comfortably, especially once I started getting into carrying a gun. I thought, you know, too much weight, blah, blah, blah. I made a lot of excuses, but to be honest, in carrying this, I was able to carry very comfortably. So the sheath system, which I really like a lot, I'll show it to you. First thing that you notice, obviously, is the, well, the first thing you might notice is the Tech-Lock style lock on the back, which is pretty cool. You see it's branded Brous blades. And I'm not sure if this is a Tech-Lock brand, but it is certainly the exact same design. Basically, you have a little piece here that locks your lock, all right? So you pinch these together, okay? You can see from this view here how this works. That's how it actually locks. But you pinch these together and you lift up. You can easily put this on your belt without removing your belt, which is very nice. Okay, just slip this through. There's a bar right here. And between this bar and these notches, you can take this out and move it down so that your width will perfectly fit whatever belt size you have. Obviously, different people wear different size belts. If you have a duty belt, it's gonna be a lot thicker. If you have a specific gun belt, it's a lot thicker, or wider, I should say. Or let's say you're getting dressed up and you got this tiny thin little belt from the 80s, who knows. You can adjust this so any way you want so that it will fit your belt very comfortably without any wiggle, which is really nice. But as you saw before, once this is snapped shut, this little bar pivots and basically fills up that gap, so you cannot pinch this, which means it's locking the lock pretty much. Okay, so it's very, very secure on your body. I like the Kydex setup. I like this little thumb flare, and I mean, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people starting to do this now. And I was really trying to think, where was the first place I ever saw this on Kydex? Because so many people, you know, you struggle to pull it out. Of course, it's a nice tight fit. It's very hard to get it out. But at some point, people started to realize, hey, instead of pulling, well, I just use my thumb pressure to just push. It's so much easier to remove a knife from Kydex. And honestly, although I've seen this a lot of different places, I really think the first place I've ever seen this was through Gavco's videos. Gavco, when he started making sheaths, I'm not saying he's the first person to do it. I'm just saying it's first place I ever saw it, and now I see it everywhere. I don't care who came up with it. it's a great design idea. It's fantastic. It makes it extremely easy and very comfortable for anyone to take out this knife. Some people, if you have a weaker hand, or depending on how this is positioned on your body, you may have a little bit harder time to get to it if it's hard to pull out. But again, if you haven't seen this before, it's literally just a little bit of a flare in the Kydex, okay? So that you rest your thumb right here and you push your thumb. Instead of pulling out, you push your thumb forward. And by doing that, obviously this is mounted on, your bag or your purse or whatever. But just by pushing, it's very simple to pull that out. So love the sheath system. Very, very strong, very universal. Again, this can be pulled off and mounted. If I could show you this here real quick. The hardware, there's 2 screws here, which obviously correspond with the 2 grommets in this particular sheath. But you can do any combination of these holes to make sure it's going to mount in any position you want. So it is very versatile. And if you didn't want to use this particular mounting system, you could take it off and use it on one of your other knives. All right, in case you wanted to do, I don't know, throw some paracord on here and kind of tie it off to your or loop it through your belt loop and kind of keep it in your waistband like that. I mean, there's lots of different ways you can carry any kind of fixed blade. But having this Tek-Lock system is a huge bonus. Not every company throws this in with their fixed blades, especially when you get into the higher prices. I mean, this knife is, I think, it's around $170. Blade HQ though has them from $164.50, which is a good price. It is limited to 300. You can see on the back here it has a serial number. This one happens to be number 12. So they're not going to be available everywhere. But when you get something like this, these little details, it's not that it's expected, but it's really nice when you see them. I mean, when you're paying more than $100 for a knife, let's say any fixed blade, it'd be nice to throw in something like this, but not every company does that. So it's just nice when I do see it. In my mind, I think when you're paying, $300, $400, $500 for these fixed blades some places, and you don't get something like this, it's like, come on, man. What do they cost? $5, $6? It's pretty cool to just throw it in. It really makes it a lot more versatile for the user. All right, so sometimes people get these fixed blades and they maybe want to carry them, but they don't really know how to mount them, or they're obligated to go get something else to add to this knife to be able to carry it how they want. So nice little touch. Overall, it carries really well. It works really well. Came razor sharp. The D2 is a very good working steel. This one is in a satin finish. I do keep this lightly oiled. I will wipe it down to make sure I don't get any kind of rust issues. Never really had any problem with D2. One time I had a little surface rust. I'm trying to think of what blade it was. I think it was a Bob Dozier fixed blade. But it was just because, I didn't oil it. And, in some cases, I don't oil a D2 that's exposed like this, and it can go weeks, months, and there's no problem at all. As long as you don't get it wet and let it sit like that. But, humidity, depending on where you live in the world, blah, blah, blah. If you have a tool steel or carbon steel and it's uncoated, do wipe it down every now and then. Take care of your blades, and they'll treat you well. So I like this knife a lot. I think it's priced right for what you're getting. The only downside to this, again, if you have huge meat hands and just massive mitts, don't bother. It's not going to work for you. Just because of this middle choil here, you're just going to be too pinched. And the only other downside besides that, though, is the handle scales getting dirty. Not really a big issue for me. I'm mentioning it because I know some people might be more anal about stuff like that, and like, oh my god, I got, and they get in there with the little toothpick, and that's kind of annoying. It really does not bother me one bit. Just like my guns, my knives, whatever I'm using, they can get scratched up, they can get dirty. Every now and then I'll clean it. Realistically, when I carry this again and I start getting crap in there, it might go a week or two before I actually go in there and clean it out. It's really not that big of a deal, but it's definitely worth mentioning. If you're someone who's just like, everything has to be pristine and clean and, might have an issue with that. That's why I mention it. Great working blade, very good price for what you're getting. Of course, considering what the market has to offer out there and what knives go for. I know it's expensive to some people and it's cheap to other people. Just depends on who's watching. But, if you could save up for it, or if you can afford this particular knife, I do think you're going to be very happy with it. It is a very good usable knife. But it's also good looking too, if you're one of those people that just collect knives. So it's kind of a win-win either way. But I'm a huge fan of this. I did EDC this for probably, I want to say it was a month and a half on and off. I know I went about a week, a little over a week without it. But carried it weak side because I do carry the gun. And I carried it weak side with a reverse grip like this, so I could pull it out as a retention blade. I think about these things, not that it's going to happen, but you never know. Of course, that's why I carry a gun. You never know. But with the idea that I could take it out You know, if I was struggling with my right hand or whatever, I could take it out and get the person off me to get to my gun. And it was a little bit of an inconvenience, but I would draw it, you know, lefty, and then of course put it in my right hand, and then it'd be a little bit more difficult to put away, but that's because of how I particularly wanted to carry it. There was a couple instances when I had to go to Jersey, or not Jersey, New York State, right over the border, and in that case I did carry it on my right side how I normally would carry it, like this, so I could just draw it and use it and put it back. And that's the situation where I couldn't have my gun, so the weight wasn't an issue, and where it was mounted wasn't an issue. But very happy with it. Very cool. Highly recommend it if you like this particular style of knife. So hopefully you guys enjoy the review. And thank you very much for watching. And I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you soon. Take care.